Number 10. Cover-up of Roswell. Roswell, New Mexico was the site of a UFO crash in the summer of 1947. For nearly 50 years, fans of science fiction have speculated that it was an alien spaceship. Everyone believes that the Roswell UFO sighting in that bull roar was the first such sighting in the United States. The fact that the U.S. Air Force said the object was just a weather balloon made things worse for the skeptics. No weather balloon existed, and the truth was hidden. However, this wasn't an alien spacecraft either. In the context of the Project Mogul, the thing in question was a balloon sent into orbit at extremely high altitudes. It was hoped that these balloons would be able to pick up the echoes of Soviet nuclear explosions. The U.S. military couldn't precisely be forthright about that in the press during the Cold War. Number 9. Big lie of big tobacco. Ammonia chemistry, which facilitates nicotine's faster absorption in the breathing and subsequent effect on the brain that controls, is widely used. Smoking is associated with numerous negative health outcomes, most notably lung cancer. It wasn't until the 1950s that scientists proved this beyond a reasonable doubt. For decades, however, public opinion swung back and forth in response to new sources of contention. Tobacco companies were accused in engaging in a systematic effort to distort the truth and prevent people from learning the truth. The top cigarette firms in the world collaborated on an initiative called Operation Berkshire to create manufactured outrage and debate. The cigarette industry was well aware of the cancer risks and the addictive properties of nicotine. The tobacco industry decided against making cigarettes safer because they realized they could earn more money by exploiting people's propensity to become addicted to their products. What a demonstration that, where there's smoke, there's usually fire. Number 8. White Sox win World Series. When it comes to championship droughts, the 87-year chasm between titles endured by the Chicago White Sox is among the longest in history. However, they didn't always have a reputation for misfortune. The White Sox triumphed in 1917 during the late 1910s with a cast that included baseball miracle worker Shoeless Joe Jackson. There were, however, whispers that the 1919 series was rigged. The White Sox ended up losing the series, but the rumors remained into the following season. Though Jackson's involvement is in question, a grand jury did find proof that 8 players had conspired to toss the game for financial gain. Despite the fact that they were found not guilty at trial, they were still permanently banned from the league. Number 6. Activists in politics were a target of the FBI's spying. Politicians and activists in other movements should rightly be wary about being observed. Simply said, since history shows that it can occur again. The FBI conducted unlawful surveillance, infiltrated groups they deemed subversive, and disrupted their operations from the late 1950s through the early 1970s. From feminist groups to civil rights movements, they covered it all. Even ex-Beatles singer John Lennon wasn't safe from their scrutiny. Although the counterintelligence program was officially disbanded in 1971, it is possible that similar programs have emerged in their place. When it comes to the FBI, this is the absolute worst time. Number 5. The first American president to be a woman. Although no woman has been officially elected president of the United States by the Electoral College, some believe that she is already serving in that capacity. Woodrow Wilson, the president at the time, had a stroke that severely impaired his health in 1919. Because of this, he became a bedridden paraplegic whose judgment was affected. For more than a year, Wilson's wife Edith served as his de facto vice president and advisor for the role as president. Her level of engagement was kept hidden until after her death, and Wilson herself repeatedly denied taking any executive actions. Number 4. You are being spied on by the government. Conspiracy theorists and paranoid nutjobs have been repeating for decades that the administration is tracking our every move. Not entirely incorrect either. Cell phones and the internet have given the government unprecedented access to personal data about its inhabitants. After 9/11, the Bush administration began extensive domestic and international mass surveillance activities. In the years following, the NSA has been up to its old tricks, collecting and storing metadata, text messages, emails, and whatever else can be found on the internet. Edward Snowden's revelations disclosed a great deal of this information, including the involvement of foreign governments. Not many people think that anymore, considering that most governments have given up. Number 3. Fallacious reason for war. In August of 1964, the USS Maddox fired a warning shot in the direction of 3 North Vietnamese torpedo boats that were approaching the Gulf of Tonkin. After opening fire, the Maddox was able to bring down 3 torpedo boats in its wake. 2 days after the initial attack, when word of a second attack began to spread, President Lyndon B. Johnson gave the go-ahead for increased military involvement in Vietnam. Since a long time ago, this justification has been met with skepticism. It became apparent at some point that the second attack was a complete fabrication based on a misunderstanding of the information that had been intercepted. Sadly, it was not the last time a dubious rationale was used to justify going to war. In 1990, in order to justify starting the Gulf War, George H.W. Bush utilized fabricated testimony from a public relations firm. Later on, his son lied in order to legitimize an invasion of Iraq by claiming that the country possessed weapons of mass destruction. Throughout the time, people have expressed their thoughts on war even if the government tried their best to justify every war. The conspiracy theories regarding war justification suggest the same. What's your say on the topic? Number 2. The Watergate controversy. Watergate is arguably the most famous political plot ever, and its occurrence was unimaginable at the time. Nixon's administration started the scandal when they broke into the DNC offices and unlawfully wiretapped the party's leaders. Specifically, they wanted to learn more about Nixon's potential opponents in the next race. After the suspects were caught, Nixon and his government tried to hide their complicity. Nixon resigned, however, as the growing evidence and leaks quickly erupted into a controversy that has evolved into a byword for political dishonor. Before we proceed, make sure to subscribe to our channel and press the bell to be notified of new videos. You can choose to be informed for individual videos or for all of them. If you're using a smartphone, go to Settings and enable notifications. Number 1. The Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, experimented with mind control. It may sound like science fiction, but the government actually did try to exert mind control over its citizens. Clients were lured to the apartments by prostitutes. While there, they were given LSD and essentially researched by CIA researchers. During the 1970s, a commission investigating CIA operations in the United States discovered the presence of Project Extreme, a covert project that included drug use and torture to influence the minds of its victims. Those subjected to these tests were inmates at American universities, hospitals, and prisons, as well as those at covert detention facilities around the world. Electroconvulsive therapy studies in Montreal, Canada were another example of the CIA's cruel funding of research. There is still plenty we don't know about this, despite the fact that it's one of the deepest conspiracies in existence. And that concludes Just Gotta Watch's today's episode. Thanks for watching.